My name is Yandry Perez, and I'm a software engineer at Faros AI. And today I want to show you my experience using Devin to help me with the coding task. My task here is to migrate an old program to pull from the GitLab API and write into the Faros graph. This is what we call connectors, and we are migrating from our first implementation that were called feeds into native Airbyte sources. So yeah, when we're doing this, we kind of have a lot of boilerplate code that we use in these Airbyte sources. We have a specification, we have all the scaffolding that goes around, command line arguments and such. And there is a lot of repetitive work that you need to do when you're doing the first implementation of any of those sources. So I tried to give Devin as much context as possible. So one big part of the context, of course, is the first version of the GitLab feed, what we call the GitLab feed. This is the thing we are trying to migrate from. And the other big example that I gave it was the native Airbyte source for GitHub. So, okay, you have the existing code, and this is kind of how it should look like in the new implementation. So I did a couple of attempts before this one. This was my third attempt. So I went really specific. So I told Devin about the goal. The goal of this task is to create the scaffolding for the GitLab source in this repo, follow the same structure as the GitHub source. I pointed it to the GitHub source, and I told it to use that as an example because we have followed best practices in that source. I didn't want it to do too much. I just wanted Devin to focus on a first stream of data, Faros groups, that is kind of very similar to the Faros organization's stream in GitHub. I copied the GitHub spec and I made the appropriate changes to adjust it to the GitLab use case. And in here, I was very specific about not using this set of fields in the initial implementation. I gave it a list of files that it should try to come up with using the GitHub example. I told it to, oh, this was really interesting. I just told it as you would a human. I told it to feel free to copy files and just modify them instead of creating files from scratch. I gave it a couple of hints about how we write tests and the frameworks we use. And I was very specific also about not creating a PR until he got confirmation from me that his plan and approach were correct. So I basically pasted the whole prompt into Devin here. You will see that Devin comes up with a plan, or it's searching the code base. It's looking at the main components, and it comes up with an implementation plan. It has medium confidence, as most of humans do when they're first tasked with a new project. And then it comes up with a plan. I kind of reviewed that. I confirmed that it looked okay. And then I told him to show me the code, just write your implementation. When I was satisfied with the initial implementation, I just told it to commit the changes and open a PR. So the PR is here. It was pretty good. About 80% of the work that Devin did was usable. I only had a couple of comments here. Yeah, simple things like remove unused imports. Devin reacts to this and it's watching in the background. It goes and makes the change and then pushes that fix. Oh, this is this is a review from GitHub Copilot, just to bring more bots into the party. I made some manual changes on my own, and then I finally request a review when I'm satisfied to my other teammates. So Matty here has some comments about the group filter. I decided to do that on my own. It's kind of like a last mile push to get the changes in good shape, and it was finally approved, and I just merged it. I would say that this kind of change would have taken me easily about 1 day of work, and with Devin writing 80% of the code correctly in a couple of minutes after me taking probably like 10 minutes writing this prompt, it was a huge time saver. I'm really happy with this example, and I'm looking forward to testing it more to make me more productive. If I were giving someone some advice about starting with Devin, I would say that treat Devin as a junior engineer that writes and reads and reads 1,000 times better than you. Because it has access to your code, it can understand code patterns and architectural decisions that are in your code base that most of us don't have the ability to keep in our heads, right? It has unlimited memory, so it can think in terms of those patterns that are hard to grok for us. One particular thing that I like is this Devin search functionality, because it has all the repositories that you get access to indexed. You can ask questions. You can ask it questions about your code base, which is really impressive. You can say, what PCS sources do we support? And then, yeah, this is a lot better than just browsing through a code base. So it's really nice how it gives you like a verbal output here, and it also points you to the code. And then, yeah, I would say just experiment and see what's the best workflow that works for you, by just treat it as a junior coworker that reads and writes pretty fast. If it can get you to write 80% of the code in 10 minutes, that's already a huge improvement. And yeah, just act as a senior engineer and take ownership of what your junior is writing, and make sure everything is working as expected.